Hey folks, JSAD here, and today I'm going to speak with Emerist about a Zealot POV during one of our Damnation runs. I thought it'd be nice to get a Frontliner's perspective on the channel, and Emerist has a lot of experience to share. If you are interested in more, I'll link to his channel and his upcoming Zealot guide in the description. With that out of the way, Emerist, would you tell us a bit about the loadout, the basic abilities, and just kind of Zealot stuff?
Sure, absolutely. So, the loadout I'm using is the combat axe and the combat shotgun. Mostly because the combat axe is really good at dealing with elites and has very high single target damage. That seemed to be what we were lacking in the team at high difficulties. And the shotgun was really useful for, well, I'm always in close range, so it's very nice for DPS and stagger reasons. The ultimate, if you don't know, it's a dash. It's on a very low cooldown, maybe like 30 seconds or something,
That's
and
right.
it gives like 100% of your toughness back and also a damage buff for 5 seconds.
Okay. And so in this game, the shotgun has high stagger even against like super armored elites?
Uh, yes,
So even like the Reaper, the big
and
guy with a minigun and such.
yes, it does. Sometimes it might take multiple shots, but rarely does it take more than two to actually get him staggered.
Okay. Okay. So I think it would be useful if you kind of orient us around like the general things you're thinking about, like playstyle wise. Okay, so the situation is blank. I'm trying to do blank. So like the big macro perspective first, and then we can zoom in on the micro and the detail.
Okay.
So like what's going on here and what are you trying to do?
So kind of macros
And I
perspective.
can even back it up slightly so we can watch this scene again.
Yeah, sure.
So we're going to come around this room. We just cleaned out all the trash in here. We're going into a new
Mm-hmm.
room fresh.
Yeah, so macro perspective, what I'm kind of looking for as a zealot player is I'm looking for ranged enemies that are shooting at us and are not tied up, and I'm looking for elites. Those are like the two big things. And then I'm also looking to make sure that the backline, which in this case is our psyker and our veteran, aren't being harassed by like armored enemies that they're struggling to kill.
Okay. So in that scene, we come around the corner and there's armored elites and certainly no range pressure. So your job's
Mm-hmm.
obvious.
Yeah.
Frontline, big DPS on the axe, take out these elites.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Right here, I'm kind of holding the flank while you guys are all kind of focusing on the main choke. Because at that point, I don't have really any range to do anything in the main choke, and when the Ogren's there, the melee front is kind of covered. So I figured it was a good time for me to come to the flank, especially with all those little armored enemies coming in.
So backing up slightly. So what he's saying is there's this spot right here. Our range characters are just looking down this and just shooting stuff, right?
Yep.
So why fight them to do a job that they do better when you can enable
Yeah.
them doing a job that you do better than they do?
Exactly.
It's a role differentiation. I'm noticing that the axe has a lot of stagger too. If you guys watch,
Oh
so
yeah.
this Mauler right here, watch.
Yeah. So this is an elite enemy on Damnation 5 difficulty, which is the highest difficulty, and yeah, this axe just chain staggers him, like even with light attacks sometimes. So
So maybe it's slightly scarier versus trash, right? But much
yeah.
less scary versus elites because of that chain stagger potential.
Yes. However, at least Trash's like attacks are very telegraphed, and also the Ogren on our team has like so much trash cleave that as long as we're playing together, then it's not really an issue.
Okay. All right, let's let this scene progress a little bit. Notice the hesitation to hop down and choke. Like, this is classic good Vermintide play, right? Like, there's
Yeah,
a drop downs or points where you wait for the team to be ready. You don't force the
yeah,
drop down.
yeah.
And
This is kind of muscle memory. Popping in. I think you were fixing a technical issue here as well, so I wanted to make sure that you weren't going to get stabbed in the back by something.
it's like the easiest way to lose a game in any of the Tide series is just one person drops early and just gets murdered or the team
Yeah.
splits.
So here I'm actually just covering you from this flamer that was about to set you on fire while you're
I can't
semi-AFK.
I can't remember what the reason was. Probably
I think
sucking
it
at
was an
stream.
audio issue.
Probably sucking at stream micro. All right, so this looks like dead time, so let's just jump forward. All right, so this is another big room walking into, but unlike the last one where it was kind of like limited LOS, when you walk into this one, the LOS is much bigger, right? So
Yeah.
how does that change your thinking?
This room can be really scary. If there's a lot of ranged enemies here, I am likely to just, instead of running straight in here like I do, would peel off to the left and try to get a flank so I have less of like a run up to get to these guys and get them engaged. But since it looked kind of light, I figured I had enough time to get in there before I got shot up. And as you can see, I do that with taking actually minimal damage.
This sounds such like Dive from Overwatch, if those of you are familiar. If you're on like, you're on Winston, right? You got to get on the enemy using as few resources as possible and taking as little damage as possible so you have as much damage and resources when you get in. So it's like Dive. He's like, oh, I can actually get in here cheap, so I will.
Yeah,
but if I needed to take more of a flank route, I would have. But you want to jump on these guys. And I heard Crack talking about this a lot over the weekend. And it was something like, if I see a group of shooters, I want to get on them immediately. And my impression from the back, from the brown pixels I could see versus the gray pixels next to them, is they spawn near each other. Is that kind of what you were thinking too?
Yeah, the ranged enemies?
Yeah.
Yeah, they tend to spawn pretty close. And if you don't let them post up, they'll tend to stay pretty close. But also something interesting. Well,
we'll
absolutely
keep
screw
talking.
up right there. Something interesting about ranged enemies is that when you get in close and you actually start fighting them in melee, all of the ones close by seem to like take it as a challenge and come to fight you in melee as well, which is like incredibly useful for just team survivability and
So
the survivability of yourself as well.
Got to be some sort of AI thing that says when range is less than blank, switch to melee and engage. That has to be what's happening, right? And that's what you guys are essentially exploiting, was intentionally pushing them. But this is the interesting thing. You guys just use resources to engage this group, right? Then you see a second group of range, right? And this is like Winston diving after diving again. You've just used your leap, you've used your bubble, and you're like, oh crap, well, I guess it's time to go even deeper. But sometimes it is. Because if you backed off here, what's going to happen?
They're all going to post up in the end of that corridor. And then when we all come around the corner to try and push through here, they're going to be ready for us, already sniping us with their absurdly powerful, like, ranged weapons.
So it's definitely like a risk reward kind of decision, right? Because what you don't know is if this next room happens to have 2 or 3 elites in a pack.
Yeah, it definitely is dangerous. And if this was Vermintide 2, like, this would absolutely be the wrong decision.
Yeah. Okay, tell me about this decision here, not this mechanical.
Not this one?
Yeah,
that was a really intelligent decision right there. It was tactical to get Crack to come back to the team.
Right. Just because you call it sandwich.
That's actually true. Well, mainly I peeled back there because that's that third point that I mentioned earlier was I'm still trying to pay attention to our backline and want to make sure that it's safe, even though you guys are like pretty competent players who could probably take on a horde by yourself. I'm not sure if any elites are going to show up. Armored enemies are much more of a difficulty to deal with for you guys in melee. So I figured it's Crack looked like he had the front handled at the moment, and it's kind of good to stop aggressing at least eventually so that you can regroup.
Yeah. And at that point, you guys had probably taken care of the range threat. Like, if you'd pulled back after the first pack, the second pack would have been ready to peck us away, right?
Yeah.
But there was no indication that pulling back after the second pack was bad in the same way. There were more to post up.
Yeah.
So it changes the calculus at that point. There's less of a cost to give up the pressure.
Yeah. And it's very much like a situation by situation basis on how deep do you go.
From the backliner's perspective, you guys definitely left stuff behind you when you kept pushing, right? If we'd come forward to follow your dive, we would have left enemies to post up behind us, which also would have been ugly, right?
Right.
So it's kind of like we need to do a cleanup in the front and back and recombine. Okay. So we've got diving range to CQB them. We've got frontline DPS for elite clear, and we've got peeling / picking up backline pressure to make sure the backline is enabled.
Yes. Yeah, those are like the main three like focus points that I found myself paying attention to in 90% of runs.
So I think at this point, I mean, as you see more nuanced decisions, feel free to guide the conversation that way. But I think you probably can start talking about some of the more nuanced stuff that you're doing. Like it could even be geometry specific, like exactly in this area I'm doing this because of blah blah blah.
Right. Well, I can tell you right here, where I'm intentionally trying to lead the team kind of into this room because I know it's probably safer than just straight up jumping off the edge there because there's going to be more danger of getting shot by ranged enemies.
And what you guys aren't hearing is there's special spawns and elite spawns on the map, which we heard.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. A big group of them just spawned, and here they come, actually. And
did you just stagger the dog
there? Yes. I'm pretty sure that it tried to leap at me. Because the dogs are actually really hard to stagger if they're not like mid leap. So I think it climbed, instantly tried to jump me, but I already had a charge attack ready, so it got staggered.
I think that's worth dwelling on for a second. So as far as we could tell during the weekend, dogs were very, very high stagger resistant, except for in the little window of vulnerability as they're going to leap.
Yeah. That feels pretty intentional to promote like well-timed intentional actions against the special versus just like randomly shooting and getting lucky.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I took a big hit from that shotgunner there.
Yeah, but it wasn't more than your bar.
It wasn't more than my toughness, yeah.
That was a stagger though, look. Since it broke your toughness.
Yeah.
It actually staggered you right there.
It actually interrupted my heavy, yeah. Here I have actually split off kind of to the right because I know that little pocket, the enemies in there, if I just came with the team here and started fighting at the front, then those few ranged enemies would post up behind us and start lighting us up from the back. So I took the initiative to split off there instead of sticking to the front line to deal with those guys.
I feel like we're about to talk about something else, so let's dwell on that for a second. That's not the first time you've mentioned that you're doing kind of a heads up play to pick up side pressure. Do you see this role as kind of a floater?
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like you're kind of floating between frontline, between
deep as heck, supporting the primary diver.
Yep. And also between like backline defense.
It's the off tank of Darktide.
Yeah. You feel like a problem solver, you know? It's like whatever we don't have enough of in the current moment, that's what I'm trying to do.
So this scene is brutal. They spawn groups of shooters, and elites and specials can come from many, many angles. And by the time you see them, they'll have split up and what we're calling now posting up, by which we mean the groups of shooters have spread out around the map and taken different points of cover to be like many enveloping lines of fire on you.
Yeah.
Which is the worst possible case scenario.
Yes, it's exactly what we're trying to avoid by getting stuck in there nice and early.
And we did get this group, but I guarantee there's more elsewhere on here. Like, there you go.
There's some there. Crack, I think, peeled off to the left to go deal with another group over there. I start to follow them. And then see another group already kind of posted up in the center.
And in Vermintide, this would be so wrong. This would be so wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think it's wrong. Because what are you going to do if we don't do this? What other choice does shotgun plus one-handed axe have?
Yeah. It's like I pull back, I get shot the crap out of, and then, well, we just try and charge back in later, and they're still post up there waiting for us.
So this part's interesting. So this is, again, a hard engage followed immediately by a second hard engage to prevent... Again, I keep coming back to Overwatch, and if those of you who don't know Overwatch, I'm sorry for the terms, but this is like, you don't want a poke fight. You don't want an extended trade from a distance of damage.
Yeah.
So you're intentionally hard engaging again and a second time. But anytime you're playing a kind of a divey play style, right, you expend resources to do this, and you got to look for those moments of recovery where you're like, oh, we can chill for a second and get our ultimates back. And that moment is here. Things have slowed down. And if I recall, things go slightly wrong here. Let's let it play.
Yeah. So here it's just a ranged enemy shooting. I
It's a nice stagger.
prioritize
Look
getting
at
him
this.
to
Look at
stop shooting. Oh yeah.
this.
Yeah,
If
the
you were on
axe is
one-handed
so
sword
good at
right
that.
here, if you were on one-handed sword, you could not do that.
So that was a pretty important decision right there. To switch to my shotgun and stagger the Reaper there, which only took one shot actually from the shotgun at hip fire. I was under suppression. That's why I like the shotgun so much.
Yeah.
For that exact situation right
But it
there.
enables this ridiculous aggression.
It does. And here's where everything starts to fall apart.
So things didn't look bad. There were two specials.
No.
You pushed into both of them, suppressed both of them, handled both of them, and then Ogrin pops in.
Yeah.
And things still could have been okay, except for that and that.
So yeah, we made some errors as a whole team here, and partially some personal errors on my part. So the team errors were to not stop and use the heal on our two very wounded teammates, which yeah, you can see they're both on like 1 HP right here.
Right here when we stabilized.
Yeah, we were stable here. And the personal mistake was me running forward to engage this guy instead of recognizing that we needed to sit back and actually drop that heal station.
Yeah, but again, it's just a continuation. The other thing to know is, as we get better at this, we would know this is a boss trigger potential. If this is anything like Vermintide 2, where there's defined boss triggers. Was there a boss music? Was there something we knew?
Yes, there was a spawn queue, I think.
But it was like really strewn. Like he was on top of us almost instantly.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
It's just a little unlucky. And I think the other errors were, I think we were too slow to give up space. We're in a horrible area where we can get dropped on by shooters from any angle at a distance, right? The rooms back behind us have much smaller LOSs that are much more manageable, much more choke oriented.
Yeah.
Why stay here? Why stay here?
Yeah.
So I think there were a lot of mistakes. Okay, so let's let it play out. So you end up with the boss, and I end up with a crazy... I end up basically with everything else. There's 5, 6 elites and specials plus trash coming behind me, which is the perfect accidental, mind you, distribution of labor. So why don't we talk Blade Ogrin? Go ahead.
Yeah, it was pretty intentional, at least on my part, to pull back immediately when the Plague Ogre happens. It was partially lucky that literally everything went to you.
Yeah.
Instead of like splitting between the both of us.
Off camera, that's because I lingered because I was looking to see if I could grab Combine. So proximity, it stayed with me. Almost certainly that's why.
Right. So I guess we'll get to watch how to dance a Plague Ogre, which I do pretty well here, I think. I take a couple hits unnecessary. That's true. I mean, the axe does an absurd amount of damage to this guy, too. You can watch his health just get chunked, especially once I take like a hit later and I start getting some Zealot damage boosts in.
It looks like somewhere between 1/3 and 1/2 of a head popper per heavy attack.
Yeah. If I use my ult, it also spikes up quite a lot, which I think I do here in a second. So when solo kiting an Ogrin as Zealot, your ult is actually really nice because it fully replenishes your toughness, which means that if you take a hit, like there, if I hadn't ulted, I would have taken health damage from that. And that stomp, of course, caught me off guard, and I did take health damage. But
yeah, I'll watch that again slowly. Why did that stomp happen? Keep talking.
So he does a 3-hit combo.
His running attack, and then a stationary. Yeah. I think he just walked into it.
Yeah, I just misread what I was looking at. But yeah, it seems relatively forgiving, like when you can dodge his attacks. It kind of feels like you're kiting a chaos spawn, I'd say. Like you have some pretty clear windows when you can get an attack in. Some cases you can get multiple. Yeah, so that was an ult, which I get a guaranteed crit, and now I'm doing extra damage, and I'm also headshotting, so I'm really starting to pump in a lot of damage. I think I'm getting more aggressive and more used to his attack patterns here.
Yeah, looks like you warmed up to him.
There's one random ranged enemy that was pretty annoying, but
That was
yeah, I
a
really
chunk.
start. Yeah, he really starts to fall there right at the end once I start getting
Oh,
comfortable.
how much time did this take? 11:13, and you start DPSing him at 9:45. So it's a minute 30 solo. That's about how long it takes to solo a Kata 3 boss in Vermintide 2.
Yeah, and this isn't
This
like
is nowhere near optimized.
perfect.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Like if we watch you again after another 4 weeks of play like this, it could easily be 30%, 40% faster.
yeah, for sure.
That's a lot of damage. Nice. Okay. So I actually finished my stuff roughly around the same time. So now we're
Hmm.
thinking, let's recombine. Oh, you see trash. I know what
Yep,
you're going to do. I know what you're going to do. Everyone should know
yep.
what he's going to do
Go
immediately.
straight in. Yeah, I'm not giving them a chance to post up.
You see them though, right? Look, you see them. They're scrambling. He sees dog.
Now
Nice
there I heard a
push.
dog, so I backed up. Got a really nice push. Dogs are once you get the timing down, you can deal with them pretty consistently. The safest way is to do both a dodge and a push. That's what I've found.
You even did a back dodge there though. That's hubris. I like it.
Yeah, I did. I did. I think it was like back and to the right, but if it was just a dodge alone, I don't know if it would have saved
Look
me.
at this. Look at these guns. Even with all that aggression, look, they're lighting him up.
Yeah. Even though I'm alone here, because we backed up, there's a bunch of guns just posted around the place, right? So moving into the center area, I'm just getting lit up from several different angles, and I lose like all of my HP, more than I
Yeah.
lost against the Ogren.
Wait, this is clearing angles. This is
Yeah,
clearing angles. And it takes time and persistence to clear him. There's literally only one heal on this med station. I guess this is random. I'm
yeah,
like,
that must have just been unlucky because nobody else took a heal there. That's the first time I've seen one with only one heal.
so we're two-man pushing. So in my head, that means, I mean, I guess we're talking more general stuff than just Zealot stuff right now, but two-man pushing means, yeah, you do make some pace, right? But you don't have as much, how do I say this? It's more
Oomph.
fragile. It's more fragile.
Yeah,
Things can go badly and you don't have the ability to recover from them. So you have to be much quicker to give up and to
yeah.
kite it out.
It's definitely a lot easier to support somebody like an Ogren in the front line as a zealot than to like be a solo frontline yourself. If especially if you're on axe. If you have like
Nice
Thunderhammer,
push.
it's a lot easier. Yeah, there you get another good push on that dog. And dodge the mutant as well.
Let's watch this again. So this is triple mauler, couple trash, and then two grabber specials coming through. So this is like equivalent to the spikes at the hardest points of events.
Yeah.
I guess a little
Yeah.
bit not quite so because of the nice geometry, no surround.
Yeah. We have a pretty nice choke point here. Those maulers are actually really tanky, but the axe makes like decent work of them. And you're head popping them too, so here I think you make a call to fall back because there's a lot of
Double,
specials
double
disables up.
grabber. Yeah. Double
So
grabber,
we
nader,
decided to just
flamer, or
drop.
something like that.
Yeah.
There I saw you actually use shotgun for DPS, which I haven't seen you
Yeah.
do almost at all.
Yeah, that I do rarely. Most of the time I pull out the shotgun, it's for stagger instead of DPS. But in that situation, I didn't want to run up because I didn't know what was going to be coming down. Um, and I wanted to try and kill that guy before he charged, just to make our lives easier.
Interesting. So it wasn't because you needed the DPS to be done faster or harder. It's because you wanted to be able to do it more safely. That's why
Yeah,
you did it.
yeah.
I've also noticed you haven't used stun, I think once, including just a moment before when there were triple maulers and trash in front of you. That seems like a classic moment to be like,
That's true.
I probably should pop
That
some AoE right now.
That's probably a mistake. Yeah, when we were right here earlier
Yeah,
with all the armor in the way, it didn't feel that scary to me though. I think when we were actually in the moment,
yeah,
so I didn't feel the need. The stun I kind of save. I've been using it kind of more as a panic button because like I tend to use my ult, my other resource for value because it's on a 30-second cooldown
yeah.
and it gives like a ton of extra damage. Whereas the stun it's more like utility and it works decently as a panic button. It's also really nice to get off a clutch revive if you need to, but I do have 3 of them, so I probably could use
Yeah.
them a little bit more
So it
often.
might be like the decision-making rule for when to use stuns needs to be elaborated on slightly. Like, what is a
Yeah,
heuristic? And if we had a quad, it probably would. If we had 4 up alive, it probably would have been wrong
yeah, probably.
because the Ogre and stun would have come through. The frag bot grenade would have come through. Blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I guess we're just pushing into event. We probably can just zoom forward.
Yeah.
This is just clearing trash before you drop into an event.
Yep.
Standard stuff.
Oh, there's actually a good Poxwalker push there. If you want to back up a second, somewhere in here. Yeah, right in a second, I think.
Dispersed.
So we pull all the trash. It kind of just comes up out of this door.
Is that right?
Um, yeah, they also can come out of a door to the left. Here comes the Poxwalker, I think. If you haven't seen how to deal with a Poxwalker, there he is. One simple push, mid dive. That's all it takes.
And hope nobody else has hit him.
Yeah. At least in the beta, there was a. It might be a bug. I don't know if it's intentional, but if somebody shoots him beforehand, then you can't stagger him out of his leap.
I am sure you guys will never experience that.
Which, yeah,
And
hopefully that gets
there's no
fixed
way. There's no way.
before the next playable version.
So I'm noticing in Darktide, much more than Vermintide, it is a mistake to rush reses, right?
Mm.
I'm just like I'm
Yeah,
noticing the potential, the proportion of the time that a clutch res works feels low.
yeah, it does. It does seem like that, and I think that's because of the ranged pressure. Like if it's only melee enemies around, like you can block, assuming you have enough stamina. Like you can
And I
get a
guess you
revive
can
up
stun
just
nade.
like it is in V2. And yeah, stun grenade works excellently for that. But if there's a bunch of ranged enemies posted up, having a sight line on the guy who's down, then it's going to be significantly harder to get that res off. And holding block isn't going to do anything against that.
Yeah, the mechanic on that right now is when your toughness gives, they start stunning you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just really not that much. Like 3
Yeah.
shots. I think it's 3 shots.
So here you can see I was looking for that sniper, but then trying to ping it, and then I realized that Combine was about to get absolutely owned by this horde, so I switched my attention to trying to cover him so that he can better shoot the sniper, because I have a shotgun, and he has like an actual gun that can shoot at range, so 'cause he's on veteran.
Crackdown on the Ogren, just doing his thing.
Yeah, doing Ogren things. I think he wants to get that objective fixed, so I actually jumped down to start to try and help him, but then see some ranged enemies.
So
Instant reaction, press F, go in.
the spawns on this, specials come from here. Let me see if I can back up slightly and show this. Specials can come down from this chute, they can come from up here, and then from up here. Shooters come from up here or from down this hallway here, and trash kind of filters in from everywhere.
Yeah.
So him being down there, it's not really that big of a deal because he doesn't really get special pressure down there. He's just kind of taking care of the event. He's just running the objective.
Mm-hmm.
See shooters, switch to dive.
There, I think Combine did the event, so we're all backing up back to the designated hold position, which is kind of up top. I think
Events
we decided on
Go
the
ahead.
spot because it was decent for like ranged cover. For the most part.
Oh, guys, what is he doing here? He sees a bunch of shooters. He has
Mm-hmm.
ult, but he has low toughness, and it's probably just too far from ult. So what is he thinking? He's like, I need to dive, but I can't do it at the main angle. Let's get a flank angle.
Mm-hmm.
Do, and dead.
There I
Oh,
go.
I
Yep.
guess they were already dead. But
I
it's
think
like,
Combine killed most of them before I got there, but that was the
strategically,
pretty
it's
much the
really
intention.
clear what you're trying to do and why it works.
Yeah. Right there, that was a good example of me using my shotgun for stagger against that trapper. And here as well, my ult's down. I don't have the capability to get in close with those guys. So that's when I whip out the shotgun because I really don't want to get shot by those guys.
So events in Vermintide typically work on a wave-based system. Bunch of stuff spawns, some little stuff spawns, and then a bunch of stuff spawns. So we kind of just know instinctively that you can go out, run the objective, get back, be ready, repeat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's especially this one as well. It seemed pretty tame when we were playing it.
Yeah. But we know that the last wave is like triple or quad mauler, double horde size, blah blah blah. Like
Yeah.
there is a spike. We know it's coming.
Mhm.
You can't remember if it was the third or the fourth wave, but you know it's coming.
Yeah.
Here you're using shotgun for horde clear,
Yep.
which
Because
I
it
have
is actually better at killing hordes, I think, than the axe. Here I
and
get
this.
absolutely owned trying to climb over this thing. I take like a million hits.
For those who don't know so far, the flame instantly, look, watch his toughness, pops and stuns instantly.
Yeah, fire does
Brutal.
an insane amount of damage. It also ticks your health really fast once your toughness is down. So, and then I make a I'm on like the back foot after that little climb over there. So I take a bunch of stupid hits here.
Proc
My death
keeps you in the
resist
game.
procs. Yep.
Stun helps you get the initiative back. Psyker in the
Yep.
back doing 2-3 big force staff stuns plus ultimate helps us get the initiative back, and
Yep.
we tank through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Between the Psyker CC, the Ogren, and me frontlining with the stun grenade and the DPS from the veteran. Yeah, we just kind of muscle through that one.
It was bad though. We deserve to be punished
It
harder
could
than
have
that.
been better. Yeah. It could have been a lot better.
But do notice that in between these waves, the team's doing its business, but it kind of just knows to come back. This is where you're going to learn to rage at your pub partners.
Yeah.
Like, you know this is coming, right? Like, why are you still down there? No, you come here to me.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a different experience playing with a coordinated team and playing with randoms. Some strategies are just going to be impossible to pull off without like voice comms and a pre-planned strategy.
All right. I think we're starting to run long. Let's just jump ahead. It's a quad ogre and kill. It's not
Pretty straightforward.
super important. I think we might want to just jump forward to the event, honestly.
Yeah.
So this event is an event that requires movement. So it
Yeah.
took us a while to come up with a strategy. And what we kind of came up with for these movement-based ones is a 2 and 2. So the back line supports each other and gets nice LOS to try to control the range specials and the shooters. And the front line kind of supports each other in running the objective, especially because the Ogren can run the objective at full speed. So this is the first time I'm seeing the event from the perspective of the front line. So I'll let you just take it from here.
Yeah. So my thinking here is I just want to make sure that the Ogren has a clear path. And this is actually a little miscommunication because he actually goes a different direction than me right at the start here. But I quickly try and redirect to go cover him. But basically, my job here is escort duty because the Ogren moves super fast with the objective. Um, and I'm pretty killy on Zealot, so just keeping this trash back so that it doesn't interrupt him putting that objective in, and then he's going to drop down and rejoin me here in a second.
So notice that he
There he
did let
is.
the Ogren get away from him, but it was only because to stay and slay the stuff behind him, but it was only because he literally knew that Crack would be dropping back to him and recombining. If you didn't
Yeah.
know that he was going to do that, if it was a pub, you would have kept following him.
Yeah, very likely.
Because control at the right place is way more valuable than damage at the wrong place.
Certainly. Yeah.
So you're getting cut off.
Here, I'm trying my best to keep up with him, but I'm getting zoned by all these grenades.
He's faster with the objective than you are.
I know, it's insane. Here, I'm making sure we're just trying to stick together because this fire can very easily separate us if we drop on the wrong side of it. And that was turned out to be pretty important because we ended up getting a couple maulers spawned. And we actually have to slay here for a minute because a lot of stuff spawned, and I think you guys were fighting quite a bit too.
The viewer wonders, huh, Well, what is all this stuff? I thought that was just mostly trash. Oh, it must have been because the event just spawned another heavy wave. But now they've
Yep.
handled the heavy wave, so that means, per ordinary tide logic, it goes back to light for a little while. Time to run the objective.
Precisely. Now here, you see how much damage that fire does to me? I
Brutal.
was like full HP. I stayed in that fire for like 2 seconds just to try to stay close to crack, and I got absolutely punished for it.
I could literally see that was going on in your head, I guess figuratively, right? You're like, oh, I don't want to take this fire, but if I go around it, I'm going to get separated. How bad could it be? The answer was apparently pretty bad. You're limit
Pretty
testing.
bad, yeah.
Limit
Yeah, that was a
testing.
learning experience.
So now we're starting to see some more pressure.
Yep. Some more things are spawning, so we end up dropping the objective to deal with it.
Nice
Or I
little
chuck it over
toss.
the fire to see if crack will pick it up. There, the fire actually lingers a little bit longer than it like shows visually there because I lost my overshield for it. I don't know if you saw. And here I split off because Combine makes a call that he was having trouble, so I wanted to push up to try and help him. And then in leaving Crack, he actually went down, and then I go in
Oh,
to
that
try and
was
help
going to be
Crack.
such a cool play. What unlucky
Yeah,
timing.
I know, dashing over the gap to save my fellow frontliner, and it was just the pox bomber. Even though it looked like I may have gotten the push off, still managed to clip me just enough.
So if you guys are thinking this looked a little sketch a couple times, is there a way we could have made this tighter? And the answer is the runners could have recombined with the backliners to take care of the burst. But it would have
Yeah,
made the event take 50% longer. So it is a bit of a give and
yeah.
take.
It's how much it's risk versus time, basically.
So this is going to be a final wave, a little redemption wave for the enemies. And
Yep.
apparently, I guess the level designers for the levels we've seen so far like Mauler heavy to equal redemption wave.
It does feel like that. Yeah. Yeah, not a lot of specials during this time either. But a lot of horde, a lot of maulers.
Force
And
staff,
here we
stun
have a lot
grenade,
of
another
our resources
explosion,
still. We
another
know we're at the
grenade.
end of the mission, so I throw 2 stun grenades, or I think about throwing the second one, but veteran and you at the fort staff just absolutely obliterated everything, so wasn't really a point.
I think we're done.
Yep. That's the end
So
right there.
again, guys, I know we didn't talk about the specific details of his build, exactly which attack he's using when, where he's aiming, and that sort of like micro detail. But if you're interested in playing Zealot at that level, I highly recommend you check the links in the description. Emerist, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is really good. Yeah, it was an awesome weekend. I mean,
Oh yeah.
these guys were grinding it out. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, I had such a blast. Zealot, it's a really fun class to play, and Darktide in general, it's super fun, especially if you're a fan of Vermintide, like you're gonna enjoy Darktide.
My feeling was if you were a Vermintide vet coming in, like maybe you haven't been around for a while, but you're a Vermintide guy coming
Hmm.
into Darktide, that Zealot might fit like a glove.
It kind of does because you have all the melee muscle memory, and you just get to play so aggressive. Like where normally you'd be punished in Vermintide, it's like encouraged in Darktide, and it makes it really fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, until next time. Thank you.
See ya.